Hi everybody, I hope you're all well. Sorry it's been 2 weeks since you've seen me, but unfortunately, really annoyingly, I came down with another horrible bug. I literally, because I had the one bug which my last review it meant that I had to take longer to get to you, and I had that bit of the bug then believe in that video, but I got better, and then literally a couple of days later after I got better I went to Bristol because I had a day thing that I needed to go to with work. Had it fine. The rest of the week I was at home, so I wasn't around people because I live alone and that. And then the Monday, everything, I developed, all of a sudden out of the blue, only the right side of my throat started itching, and I was like, what the heck is that? As the evening progressed, I suddenly, just the right side of my nose started running, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Woke up the next day, the entire right side of my head was throbbing. It got really bad sinuses, and I had a really bad headache, but only on the right side of my head as well. It was just it was bizarre. And I had to take 3 days off work. I have never taken 3 days off work sick unless I've been signed off by a doctor. It was just this sinus cold just really got to me. And yeah, I ended up having 5 days in bed because I managed to get through Tuesday at work, and I was terrible. I wasn't very well at all. So I took Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I had to have Saturday and Sunday in bed as well. And then, it was back to work Monday of this week. So it was just oh, for crying out loud, I just got rid of one bug and you're making me have another one. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, sorry, alert just come on my screen. Hang on. There we go. Go away. So it was just for crying out loud, and it was a really nasty bug as well. So I hadn't planned to be away for 2 weeks, but that is what has happened. But I am back. I am better. And I had a night out last night, which is why I look a bit tired and puffy-eyed. I went to a Christmas concert, which was a nostalgic thing from songs from the 50s to the 80s Christmas period songs. So it wasn't all Christmas songs, but it was songs that were released around Christmas. We had Bohemian Rhapsody and stuff like this thrown in, which was really fun. So I am better now. I hope to God I don't come down with another bug, especially for next weekend, because next weekend I am going to the Harry Potter studio tour. It would be my second visit, and my first visit was 4 years ago. And when we went 4 years ago, me and my mum, we went in the summer, I think it was, and so the big Hogwarts castle at the end was dressed for summer, and this time we dressed for winter, and all of the sets will be all Christmassy, and I'm just really excited to go. So that's going to be Sunday. So just to let you know, you'll definitely see me on Saturday, because Saturday, I cannot believe it, will be the 2nd of December. And so Advent 2023 will begin for my Advent thing, because it's 12 days rather than 24 days, just to clarify. I do realise 2nd December, not the 1st of December. And the day after the studio tour on the Monday, I've booked the day off work because I have no clue what time we're going to get back. So I was like, I'll just take the day off just in case we end up getting back late because of traffic and such. And we're going on a coach tour, so times are out of my hands entirely. So you will definitely see me on Saturday with the first Advent, and then the Monday for the second Advent, and possibly a review of the next book. I don't know. But anyway, enough about all of that, my scheduling and my couple of weeks being sick and everything. I'm here to talk about the book I've been reading, which is Richard III and the Princes in the Tower by Alison Weir. Now, I have discovered something this morning about this book when I finished it that has really kind of ticked me off. And I'm going to share this bit of information with you. So I had previously said there is an Alison Weir book about the Princes in the Tower, which, as far as I'm aware, focuses, they are the focus and Richard is a secondary character. And then in this one, Richard is a focus, and it's about, his birth, his life, everything, all that jazz. So that's what I had said in previous video, because that is what I believed. It was only this morning when I was flicking through this and looking at the dedications and such that I found this little note on the publication page which said, first published with the title The Princess in the Tower by Vintage in 1992. And this version was published in 2014. And I went, I've got that book. I already had the book. I already had it under its 1990s title with the 1990s cover. It's got a slightly different title, but it's the same book. And what is also really irked me, that it isn't just a case of that it just so happened that this is the version now that is in shops and it changed over time. Both of these are sold now, currently, at the same time in standard bookshops. These were both on the same table when I bought this copy back in, I think it was 2022, wasn't it? I think it was. I can't remember if it was 2021 or 2022 when I was last at Stratford. But either way, both of these were side by side on the same table when I bought this book. So it's not like, you know, this is superseded and they're never selling this version in stocks again. So Vintage, not happy with you there. And also the covers are completely different. Their titles are different. So it implies that these are two completely separate books when they are actually the same book. So I'm like, so I basically spent £10 on a book that I already had. Bit annoyed about that. So I am sorry if you'd seen my video, I think, where I was introducing this one, and I was saying about, oh, there's this other book called The Princess in the Tower, which is more focused on the boy, because that is what I thought. That is genuinely what I believed. So yeah, sorry, my mess up there. But it's just, that's really bugged me. This one basically came out 2014 because that's with the whole discovering of Richard's body stuff happened, and of course he was big in news and everything. So basically Vintage jumped on the bandwagon, re-released Princess in the Tower with a different title, with a different cover, making it Richard III focused. And yeah, and then Alison Weir has put a new introduction on. Really bugged me. So for that, Vintage, I'm just, ooh, you got knocked down a peg in my eyes for that. I'm just not a happy bunny with you. Not a happy bunny. That's as far as I'll go before I start swearing. So this book, obviously, it relates to Richard III, the last king to die in battle here in England, and he got caught up in the disappearance of his nephews in the Tower, because Richard's brother basically was on the throne, and he passed away, and there was the circumstances of the other siblings and everything passing away and such, family ties, all that lot, and they got placed in the Tower, and they were there for a while, and then one day they just weren't there. No one ever saw them again, and Richard became king. So it's a belief that he basically had his nephews killed in order to get the crown. And there's a whole debate with the whole thing of, well, is it a true representation that Richard was this evil man, or was he actually a misunderstood monarch? Because the representation that everyone is very much aware, the hunchback, kind of really angry, determined, bloody king, is very much a version that Shakespeare came up with. And so because we don't know entirely the truth, that's the version that everyone just automatically thinks of. And of course, Richard III could, for a lot of people, Richard III's representation was first given to them via Shakespeare from, school and such. Even though obviously he is taught in history classes, he gets kind of caught up in a massive block of history of monarchs and such. So he's not necessarily just focused on alone. So I can understand that people go straight away, that's the version. Now, as a historian, Alison, I really like Alison. I've read a load of her books. I find she's a really interesting historian. I really like listening to her. I've seen her give lectures and such at the Cheltenham Literature Festival before. I find her really interesting. But back in the 90s, when she wrote this book, it kind of felt like her objective hat as a historian was kind of knocked off her head, because it just felt like, or at least to me when reading this, that obviously the princes are saints, everyone is a saint, and Richard is just this evil one-off character. Like in later books of hers, I have seen very much where she takes these characters from history, and I refer to them as characters because, again, some of them it's how a play or, something has represented them. So that doesn't necessarily mean that is who they were. And without lots of, historical documents and everything, it can be very difficult to determine who they were as people. So that's why I'm referring as characters. So what was I saying? It's with plays and and all that lot being our only thing. It can be very difficult to distinguish the truth from that character, and I have seen her in later books take a character and go, right, let's break this down bit by bit and look at this. Like especially when she did like the Six Wives of Henry VIII and how she explored all them in different angles. And so I thought she did brilliantly with that. And then I look at this and it's just like she's decided, or at least in my eyes, she's just decided, no, that's the way he was. He was this, bad guy and everything. So I'm going to go with that. And it was just a bit frustrating. And I don't know if it is that thing of, if you watch historic documentaries from the past, especially around the 90s, I have to say, which is slap bang when this book was first published, should I say, because I would say 2014 edition, it was very much black and white. It was, this is what the historic document says, and therefore that is what they were, X, Y, Z, this is what happened. Whereas more modern historians like to question things, like to look around and go, well, how would we interpret this now? And a really, really good example of that, I personally feel, is Lucy Worsley's view on the Six Wives of Henry VIII, and especially Catherine Howard, because Catherine was accused of adultery. She was beheaded for it, and there is this confession that she wrote about her life and previous men in her life, and she says in this documentary that she did for the BBC that if we were to look at this through the gaze of the Tudor period and the men who would have looked at it and everything, because, and I say men because obviously the people in the court who were deciding her fate were men, it's very much she's a slut, she's a whore, all this lot, she deserves to go to hell, etc. But if we look at it now with our modern gaze and our understanding of the complexities of the world and life, we would actually refer to her as an abused child. So yeah, take that what you will. So things like that. And Alison does have that capability to be more objective. I have seen that in other books of hers, but this one, she was just a bit like, nah, he was just a bit of a nasty guy, and it didn't really sit well with me doing that. Although, the princes are. She talks obviously the history of the family and the princes and everything, and obviously they are key players in his rise to be king and everything. I felt a little disconnected there, because just as in some books, relating to them, it's very much they are the thing in the way. They're not necessarily people, as it were, which is really horrible thing to say. And I kind of felt that way in this book. What happened to, because clearly they were killed. They were murdered, and we have the various confessions of people in the tower who said, yeah, they were killed and I was involved with it. We have that information, but you have to take it with a grain of salt, obviously, because of at the time what was going on, etc. They're pretty tough to read, those, and some you can feel their kind of shock and their devastation of having to do this to children. So I feel like those kind of fleshed out the princes more than Alison did in this book as an historian. So it's kind of like, it's a really tough one, this one, because even though I was frustrated with the angles that Alison took and the way that she decided to explore things, at the same time, I did enjoy reading this book. So I have this kind of, I'm a bit stuck. I feel like I can't go higher than a 3-star with this one out of 5. It is interesting, but it falls for, the standard representations of these various characters throughout history. It does ask various questions, but it doesn't necessarily give answers. It does rely a lot on multiple sources, but of course naturally that has to, because of what actual, like written evidence and such that we have that relates to Richard III and the specific things that she's exploring. But she did refer to a lot of historians throughout this book and go, well, this is what this historian thinks and that's what that historian thinks, rather than necessarily giving her perspective. So it just felt a bit, I was juggling multiple things, multiple opinions, negative and positive, throughout this book. So, and yeah, the whole changing it's the same book, but we're just going to change the title and stick a new cover and everything, and that'll be fine. No, it's not going to be fine. I'm not happy with that. So I can't, and that's kind of really annoyed me. So yeah, I feel like I can't go more than 3-star with this book. I enjoyed it, but I can't go any further than that. So yeah, it's a difficult one. It is a difficult one this time, but I got through it, so that's good. So I'm going to ask my usual questions. Would I read this again? I don't think I would. Or at least not right now. Just because I'm frustrated with it, and I found that special frustration about the title and the different cover and everything for a book that I've already got. I found that out this morning. I'm feeling that frustration still, so maybe that's why I'm saying no right now, but possibly in the future. I'm not sure. Would would you read? Would I read any more of Alison's books? Well, yes, because I really like Alison Weir. I think she's a good historian. It's just this one just fell flat for me. Would I recommend this to anyone? Given my frustration right now, no. But I obviously different people, if they have an interest in Richard III and the Prince in the Tower, I'd probably say, you know what, give it a go. It didn't work for me, but it might work for you. So that's where I would sit with that. But yeah. So those are my thoughts on Richard III and the Princess in the Tower, or if you've got the 90s edition, The Princess in the Tower by Alison Weir. Have you read these books? I'll say books because obviously there's plural. I'd love to know what you think. Leave me a comment in the comments below. Give me thumbs up, thumbs down, tag to your side. And as I mentioned, I will be back on Saturday with the first of the Shop by Mum Advent calendar openings, and of course I will be back with my next book review. When that will be, I'm not sure, which is The House at Riverton by Kate Morton. My sister and my mum are so excited for me to read this, finally her first book, because they both absolutely love it and they've said you are going to love this. So I'm hoping to get through this very quickly because you know, based on what they said, I'm sure I'm going to love it. But yeah, so I'll definitely be back on Saturday with the first Advent calendar openings. And yeah, and then we'll see when I'm back for my review. All right, guys. Bye. Ooh.